There's a secret about the human heart that Ibn Arabi discovered 800 years ago, and it's so profound that it explains why some people can know God intimately while others remain distant forever. It has nothing to do with how much you pray, how much you study, or how good you are. It has everything to do with something your heart does every single moment, but you're probably doing it wrong. Most people think the spiritual heart should be steady, constant, and unchanging. They want their heart to find peace and stay there. They want their love for God to remain at the same level. They want their faith to be rock solid, never wavering. But Ibn Arabi discovered something that shattered this entire understanding in his masterwork, the Fuchsius al-Hakim. Ibn Arabi writes about a specific group of people he calls the Gnostics. These are the ones who have attained a genuine understanding of God. And when he describes their hearts, he says something extraordinary. He says, God named the heart Qalb because of its constant alteration in every shape. According to Ibn Arabi's exact words from the Fuchsius al-Hakim, the heart is called Qalb because of its ability to change and transform continuously. He writes that every day God is employing himself in a new affair. And because of this changing and the capability of changing, the heart of the knower has what he calls divine breath. This divine breath is the capacity to receive all of God's different manifestations. But here's the crucial part that most people miss. Ibn Arabi explains that only the heart that constantly changes its shape can receive the totality of God's self-manifestations. Think about this for a moment. You probably believe that spiritual maturity means finding inner peace and staying there. You think progress means reaching a state of constant devotion, constant love, constant connection with God. But Ibn Arabi is telling us the opposite. He's saying that the sign of spiritual maturity is a heart that never stops transforming. Why? Because God himself never appears in the same way twice. In the Fuchsius al-Hakim, Ibn Arabi explains that for the true knower, God is the one known who is never denied. But this knowing requires something specific. It requires a heart that knows the shapes of transformation by changing itself into many different shapes. This is where most people get stuck. They have an experience of God in prayer or during remembrance or in a moment of difficulty, and they try to hold on to that exact experience. They want to recreate that same feeling, that same spiritual state. But Ibn Arabi is saying this is exactly what cuts you off from deeper knowledge. The heart that tries to stay in one shape, even if it's a beautiful spiritual shape, becomes like a cup that can only hold one type of water. But God's manifestations are like an infinite ocean with countless different currents, temperatures, and qualities. A cup that only opens to one type of water will miss all the rest. Ibn Arabi gives us a profound example in the Fuchsius al-Hakim. He says that those who have hearts that can transform are like mirrors that reflect whatever is placed in front of them. When beauty is manifested, they reflect beauty. When majesty is manifested, they reflect majesty. When mercy is manifested, they reflect mercy. When divine severity is manifested, they reflect that as well. But the person whose heart has become fixed reflects only one quality, even when God is manifesting something completely different. Imagine someone whose heart is stuck in a state of seeking God's mercy. When life brings them a situation that is actually a manifestation of God's wisdom through difficulty, they cannot receive it properly because their heart are not in the shape to recognize wisdom. They keep trying to see mercy, where God is actually teaching them something through challenge. This is why Ibn Arabi says in the Fuchsius al-Hakim that the perfect human constantly changes the shape of his heart in accordance with the changing shapes of God's self-manifestation. Only through this constant changing can he receive the totality of divine self-manifestations. But how does this actually work in real life? Ibn Arabi gives us very practical guidance. He explains that the heart of the knower recognizes that behind every experience, every emotion, every state, every circumstance, God is manifesting one of his qualities. Instead of rejecting difficult states or clinging to beautiful states, the transforming heart asks, what quality of God is being revealed to me right now? When you're experiencing fear, instead of trying to escape it or judge it, the transforming heart asks, how is God manifesting through this fear? What is He teaching me about His quality of protection, or His quality of hiddenness, or His quality of testing? And the heart changes its shape to receive this particular manifestation. When you're experiencing love, instead of trying to make it permanent or recreate it artificially, the transforming heart asks, how is God's quality of beauty and attraction being revealed right now? And it opens to receive this manifestation fully, knowing that this too will transform into something else. When you're experiencing loss, instead of resisting it or becoming bitter, the transforming heart asks, how is God's quality of taking away manifesting? What does He want me to understand about His quality of sovereignty? And the heart transforms to accommodate this teaching. This is what Ibn Arabi means when he says, the heart has divine breadth. It becomes spacious enough to accommodate all of God's qualities, not just the ones that feel comfortable or familiar. The heart learns to find God in joy and in sorrow, in expansion and in contraction, in clarity and in confusion, in closeness and in apparent distance. But here's the secret that most people never discover. Ibn Arabi teaches that this transformation is not something you force or control. You cannot make your heart change by effort or technique. The transformation happens naturally when you stop trying to fix your heart in one state and instead surrender to the reality that God is always manifesting something new. In the Fujas al-Hikim, Ibn Arabi explains that the heart's ability to transform is actually a reflection of God's own nature. God is described in the Quran as being in a different state. This doesn't mean God changes in His essence, but that His manifestations are infinite and ever-renewing. The heart that can transform is simply aligning itself with this divine reality. Most people exhaust themselves trying to maintain a particular spiritual state. They meditate to feel peaceful and then struggle when the peace fades. They pray to feel connected and then worry when they feel distant. They seek knowledge to feel certain and then become disturbed when doubts arise. But Ibn Arabi is showing us that this entire approach is based on a misunderstanding. The spiritual life is not about achieving a permanent state. It's about developing a heart that can dance with God's endless manifestations. It's about becoming so flexible, so responsive, so receptive, that no matter what God brings into your life, your heart can transform to receive it as a divine teaching. Ibn Arabi describes this in the Fujas al-Hikim as having a heart that knows the shapes of transformation. This knowing is not intellectual. It's a lived capacity developed through years of surrender and attentiveness. The heart gradually learns to recognize God's hand in every experience and to transform accordingly. This is why some people can find God in the most difficult circumstances, while others lose Him even in the most beautiful moments. It's not about the circumstances themselves. It's about whether the heart has learned to transform and receive whatever God is manifesting. The person whose heart can transform becomes what Ibn Arabi calls a perfect mirror. They reflect God's qualities accurately because they don't impose their own fixed shape on the reflection. They allow themselves to be shaped by whatever God is revealing in each moment. But the person whose heart is fixed reflects God through the distortion of their own limitations. Their heart have become like a broken mirror. They can only show one image, no matter what stands in front of it. They see only what they expect to see, only what they're comfortable seeing, only what matches their current spiritual identity. Ibn Arabi teaches that this flexibility of heart is actually what allows the perfect human to serve as a bridge between God and creation, because they can transform to reflect any of God's qualities. They become a perfect means for God to manifest His names and attributes in the world. This transforming heart becomes God's instrument in creation. When God wants to manifest mercy, He does it through a heart that has learned to embody mercy. When he wants to manifest wisdom, he does it through a heart that can receive and express wisdom. When he wants to manifest beauty, he does it through a heart that has been polished to reflect beauty perfectly. This is the secret Ibn Arabi discovered. The heart that never stops changing is not unstable or confused. It's the most stable thing in existence because it's rooted not in its own fixed nature, but in the infinite, ever-manifesting nature of God himself. It finds its permanence not in staying the same, but in its capacity to always transform according to divine will. So if you've been trying to fix your heart in one spiritual state, if you've been struggling to maintain a particular level of faith or love or peace, Ibn Arabi is inviting you to let go of that entire project. Instead, develop the capacity to ask in every moment, what quality of God is being manifested right now? And how can my heart transform to receive it fully? This is the path of the transforming heart. This is the secret of those who know God intimately. They don't try to control their spiritual experience. They surrender to the reality that God is always teaching something new, always manifesting in a new way, always inviting them into a deeper transformation. Your heart was created for this dance of endless transformation. It was never meant to be fixed in one state, no matter how beautiful that state might seem. It was designed to be God's perfect mirror, capable of reflecting the infinite beauty of his endless self-disclosure. The question is, are you ready to stop trying to control your heart and start allowing it to transform according to God's will? Are you ready to discover the divine breath that makes intimate knowledge of God possible? The transforming heart is waiting for your surrender. In the end, Ibn Arabi's teaching reminds us that the heart was never meant to be frozen in one state. Its perfection lies in its ability to endlessly transform, reflecting God's infinite manifestations in every moment. The true spiritual path is not clinging to peace, love, or certainty, but surrendering to the flow of divine disclosure as it constantly renews itself. The transforming heart is the key to knowing God intimately. It is the mirror that can hold every quality without resistance, the vessel that never overflows, the breath that never ceases. When you stop trying to control your inner state and allow your heart to move with God's infinite dance, you discover the secret of divine intimacy. So ask yourself, am I clinging to one shape of faith, or am I ready to let my heart transform endlessly in the presence of the divine? That is the path of the true knower, the secret of the transforming heart. Finally, if you found wisdom in this message, don't forget to subscribe to the NoorDeen channel for more spiritual insights and teachings. See you in the next video.